Hello, everyone. How are you doing? That dreaded time, 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon with the after lunch slump and you sitting in the dark, warm place. You awake? Good, good. Thank you for the feedback. And I hope that our discussion will wake you up for sure, because I have really great panelists here, which I would like to invite here to join me on the stage. Anastasia, Johanna, and Polis, please come and take your seats, and we'll start without any further ado. Give them a round of applause, please. So hello and welcome to our discussion from seed to sustainability. I have to admit and make a confession that the very first time I read this name of this panel discussion, I had to read twice to understand what we're going to talk about. But I think we figured it out, and we're going to talk about the sustainable challenges in all stages of the companies, and we have all stages of the companies on the stage, which is amazing. So I would like you, as my first question, to introduce yourselves. Just say your name, what company you represent, what stage it is, right? And what does it have to do with sustainability, your company per se, right? So we'll start with you, Anastasia.
Thank you, Lena. My name is Anastasia Olenika. I am CEO at Printify. Printify, at the moment, I'd say, is a scale-up company, not really a startup anymore. Printify was established in 2015. And with regard to our sustainability angle, what I can add is that we are a print-on-demand company. And as such, on one hand, our business model is driving the world towards a more sustainable production because we allow merchants to connect to the sales channels and produce goods on demand only when the sale is actually made, which means that they don't need to pre-order, store the goods somewhere, and then less waste is created because, of course, when you are planning what you would like to sell, you never know what sizes, what colors, how much items you're going to need, right? So waste occurs almost always. So on one hand, our business model is kind of driving the world towards more sustainability. On the other hand, what it means is that we are connecting our merchants also to large supply chains. We are managing a large number of production partners who are producing blanks, printing on those blanks. So it can be apparel, it can be other goods. And then the goods, once produced, are delivered via our delivery partners to the end consumer. So we also are playing a big role in terms of supply network management. And this is where kind of a big part of how we think about our responsibility in terms of sustainability comes from.
Did this Sustainability Award Forum order the merchandise from you by any chance? All these nice T-shirts that people are walking around with, is it printed by you?
Here, yes.
Oh, well done. Good.
Yes.
I thought that you're going to say no, and I say, hell, listen up, do it next year. But hey, well done. Okay, very good.
So we're supporting sustainability also in this way by providing T-shirts to the Sustainability Forum. Thank you.
Thank you. And Polis, what about you?
Polis Miečas, Head of Strategic Initiatives for PVcase. PVcase is a software company that provides different solutions to help identify the best places to build solar assets and then help design and optimize them as well. So our mission is to help build as much solar as quickly as possible. And that's, from our perspective, that's really the core of the company. So our objective is not to be sustainable, let's say, it's to be to have the impact as big as possible, as quickly as possible as well, because the company itself has been set up in a sustainable way from the get-go, and that's our mission.
So where is the best place to build a solar panel in the Baltics, especially on the day like today?
That's a good question. Most of our customers are actually in the US, in Western Europe, and other markets as well. However, we see quite a few customers in Lithuania, in Latvia, Estonia as well. Some of them do products here in the Baltics. Some of them actually branch out, which we're very happy about, and they look into developing new projects in Poland, Romania, other European countries as well. And that happens with other regions as well. Solar developers in Spain would do the same thing in LATAM, for example.
Okay. So while others talk about the need for green energy, you're actually doing the work.
Correct.
Okay, very good. Thank you. And Johanna, what about you?
Yes, thank you, and thank you for having us here today and this event overall. I'm so inspired to hear you, Anastasia and Paulius. We've spoken before, actually, a little bit before the event, and this is really the kind of stories that I think is so insightful. So I'm just very great to hear it that way, also from your perspectives. What about MasterCard? So. My name is Johanna. I'm head of strategy in Nordic and Baltic division here for MasterCard. We are 1 out of 5 divisions in the Europe organization. So big international company within tech and within tech for payments, basically. And I think many of you know us by the payment card. I'm sure plenty in this room probably have a MasterCard either in your physical wallet or in your phone. And yes, this is our native business, of course. We are providing safe and secure card payments anywhere, anytime. And this is what we've done since the 50s. But if we only did that from the 50s to now, I don't think I would be sitting here. It wouldn't be very relevant. So the reason I enjoy my work at MasterCard is because we're doing so much more today than we did then. We have expanded our customer reach, not only to focus on the big financial institutions, but we are across the globe also supporting governments, public sector, digital partners, merchants, and so on, in order to find different ways to scale innovation. And this innovation that we are talking about is not only focused on the payment, it is also focused on sustainability, where we want to accelerate our efforts for since several years back in terms of what can MasterCard do to drive this change. And if I can allow myself a few more seconds on that one, I want to share a few key numbers, and I shared them in our workshop that we held this morning here downstairs. So basically, MasterCard is a acceptance network for payments, right? We are connecting 20,000 financial institutions and 90 million merchants in this kind of network of payments. Together, we reach 3 billion end consumers. And I think this is quite fascinating numbers. And why do we think about sustainability? Why do we not think about sustainability? If we can reach 3 billion end consumers, and if we can bring innovation to them that is actually changing their mind shift when they're consuming towards consuming in a more sustainable way and not consuming in an unsustainable way, then I think we have succeeded. And this is, and I'll share more details later in the panel, but this is one example of how MasterCard is driving sustainability and change.
This is amazing, actually, what you're sharing, because, if you say MasterCard, everyone straight away thinks payments, a card, right? And then you think, oh, so what's sustainability have to do with this? So I'm looking forward to hearing more about your initiatives. And actually, how this, it's from seed to sustainability, and I like how you're sitting in that order, actually. So it's very easy for me to ask questions. My next one, actually, before we come to the solutions, is about the challenges, because I know that to be a sustainable business is quite challenging, because if it was easy, everyone would do it, right? But not everyone does it because it's not easy. So, Anastasia, I'll start with you again. You're not a startup anymore, you're a scale-up, but started as a startup a long time ago. And I just want to hear what young companies experience in sustainability journey. What are the biggest challenges for you? I can rephrase that question and say, if you had a magic wand and you could change one thing that would help you as a company, what would it be? Is it policymakers? Is it education? Is it investment? One wish that would solve your biggest challenge.
So we go to solutioning straight away, right? Let me start with the first part of your question in terms of what is hard about the sustainability journey for the young companies. Actually, it's balancing your needs as a business versus the investment that sustainability often requires, right? And when we all think about sustainability, usually it's more expensive production, right? To produce sustainably. Usually it's some inconvenience maybe for the consumer because you have to use more sustainable ways of delivery. So for a young business, it's hard to put that on the other side of the scale versus actually making it. And I would say that the younger companies should still prioritize making it so that we can all grow as large as MasterCard and have potentially a big impact in the world. However, it's important also not to forget that there are other parts of the ESG, if we say so, right? It's not just the environment, it's also social and governance. So I believe it's important to build company culture and then companies' ethical compass around what are we thinking about when we're building our company, when we are planning for how the processes will be run internally, when we're hiring people. So kind of in general, giving the sustainability a wider consideration than just environment can help make that first step. So, and if you ask for a wish, then I'd say that eventually business is about economic incentives, right? And I believe that it would be much easier for any business out there, and especially kind of young businesses out there, to make the right decision and make the step towards sustainability if the right economic incentives were there. For example, looking at MasterCard, right? If sustainable businesses ranking in some ways would have better offers, maybe for processing their transactions, that would be a big encouragement for anybody out there to think in this way.
Yeah, thank you. So I hear that, sustainability, especially the E part, does come at a cost. And therefore, when you mentioned, the social part, it becomes so much more important. And actually, I'm thinking, if it comes at a cost, why do people do it? You have to really, really believe it. Then I guess at some point, is that the reason with you as well?
Who else if not us, right? Cheesy things to say, but that's true. That's one part of this. The other part is, of course, that all of the surveys out there are showing that the end consumer is being more and more responsible and more thinking about sustainability. However, our customer is not the end consumer; it's the merchant. So we see our role more of in terms of educating the merchant that they could actually grow their business better if they offer sustainable options. So there are also economic incentives down the line and financial incentives, but only as the society as a whole gets educated, including the consumer.
That's where MasterCard could help, right, with the reach that you mentioned about.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I wanted to follow up on that, because I think what Anastasia is saying is really important, and that's why we are representing 3 different organizational forms, and we have different types of responsibility to take. I definitely do believe that a big company like MasterCard and many other big corporations out there have a very big responsibility in facilitating a lot of the business models and facilitating for that kind of sustainability agenda overall. Because what we can leverage very much in MasterCard anyway is, again, I'm coming back to our partner network. And a lot of the things and initiatives that we are driving is maybe, we do have a lot of product development, and I can get back to that, but a lot is about facilitating other partnerships that might be far away from our own business model, but actually bringing people together in different ways and facilitating for those conversations and for that development. And I also really much agree with you on the kind of the S in ESG, that sustainability comes in different forms. So social sustainability is something that we in MasterCard have worked with for, I think, 15 years now more, because for us, that's really in our DNA to ensure that people in any country, regardless of background, regardless of conditions, should have the chance to be included in the financial economy of today. And for developing countries with the significant amount of unbanked population we still see, a credit card or a payment card, a debit card, can be used as ID. So we can actually help them to come into the digital economy of today and ensure that everybody within that digital economy feels safe and secure in different ways. So we have a lot of initiatives in that as well. So it's good to point out there's different ways to drive the ESG agenda overall, and it has to be part of the business model, integral in the business model, and not just a side project. Yeah, because we've moved ahead from that, and if we haven't, then we should. That's something that I think that's for the future, to have it as part of the core.
Okay. Well, let's come back to the challenges a little bit more. And so you are a fast-growing company. So what challenges are there? Well, as you said, you have sustainability at the core because your product is about that. But renewable energy companies, what challenges are they facing while scaling quickly?
Quite a few. And I think it's not just the software companies, let's say, but our customers as well are really struggling in some areas, I would say. And that, like, if I would have to name a couple of things, I would probably start with lack of talent in just like who could actually help develop new projects, build new projects. There's such a huge demand across the globe for more personnel to be working in the sector that it's really hard to keep up with that. So from
Anyone looking for a job? Renewable energy is looking for talents.
Absolutely, there's been like a big boom of just dedicated, let's say, job ad, even websites, let's say, that are specializing in climate tech and renewables themselves. So that's one of the key challenges we're looking to address together with the customers. We do in-house training. We have partnerships with universities as well in Spain, in the US, with some training centers there too, just to alleviate some of that pain, so they can actually work on the pipeline that they have in place and develop those projects within the timeline that they imagined to begin with. The second issue is, and covered that previously, but there are still a lot of manual processes. It is new and old industry kind of at the same time, because it's based on some of the hardcore engineering that still needs to happen, but the tools haven't really kept up, and that's one of the challenges as well that we're looking to help with. And lastly, maybe more applicable in Europe than other regions, is really lack of available public data around, like, let's say, land parcels, for example. Some countries you cannot even find that available in a pretty accessible, easy to congest way. That's one of the challenges that's preventing solar development in some regions and some countries, for sure.
Sounds like data is the showstopper in a lot of areas, to be honest. We're talking, about green finance, for example, and that's anything that's to do with the sustainability is the data. So I hope that gets solved very quickly. Johan, obviously you come from a big tech company. So when you are this big, maybe you solved all the sustainability issues? Or is it a bit like with children, the bigger they get, the bigger the problems? Like, do you
mean the internal challenges to push this forward from a company perspective?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yes and no. I think for MasterCard, and this is one of the reasons I'm kind of proud to work at MasterCard, is because I think one of the key enablers to put sustainability, whether it's social sustainability or environmental governance, it has to start from the leadership. And it would be difficult for me as a sole employee to try to drive something completely alone. But with MasterCard, the current CEO and the previous CEO that was sitting 10 years before the current one, they have both had this on top of their agendas. So how MasterCard can be a local force for good and driving sustainable measures in the communities we work in, that has been on the leadership table over, obviously, in US, where we have our headquarters. And if it's not on the leadership table, it's going to be very difficult to drive that change. Mm-hmm. And today we also have ESG compensation models in the company. So all the way down, to the markets where we operate in, meeting our customers, driving the everyday business, we have ESG compensation in our annual targets, which means that if we don't drive results within the topics of sustainability, financial inclusion, and the other strategic areas that we work within, we will get less compensated. And again, it's a very hard driver, the money side of it, and it sounds very that's not the only reason we do it, but I think it shows a clear direction from the leadership that this is what we measure our team on, not just how much money they bring into the company or how much business deals we drive, but actually concrete results in MasterCard sustainability strategy. So no, I have not experienced those challenges from an internal perspective because it's in the leadership team's agenda. So therefore, it's in our local team agenda, and we have the product teams developing concrete ESG-related products that we can influence customers with. And I can come back to what that looks like. But for us, not easy, but not as challenging as it could be if we didn't have the leadership in these questions.
I was saving the leadership question for last, but it's almost like it's a very good time to ask now, right? So obviously you're saying that it's very important, that everything comes from the top, obviously. What are your experiences? What do you think about, the leadership and the sustainability? What's the importance? What can leaders do? Any managers that sit here, they might be thinking, okay, what is it that I can come and copy from your best practices from leadership to take home? So maybe we'll move that question up at the agenda since we're talking about the leadership now.
Sure, happy to cover that. So I think from a startup perspective, from scale-up perspective, it really, you have to look at where you are on your journey at any given point, and really think about like even as a founder, what is the level of, let's say, involvement that you need to have? Like, is this really just a survival moment for you as a seed stage startup, let's say, or really have a sustainable business model, you have good unit economics and things like that will allow you to scale and survive next 12 months, right? So once you're past that point, then you can spend more time and really think about all of the ESG elements that will help you move forward. And it will mean different things for different companies, I think, right? So and there are specific steps that you can take depending on where you are. So in some cases, maybe some startups don't even have a board formed and don't follow a good governance processes. Like, that's the first step. You cannot really have strong leadership and strong ESG strategy if you don't have a board in the first place.
If you don't have leaders.
Exactly. So it's almost like you need to almost think about where you are in that journey and really think about the things that are applicable to you at that given point.
So at your point now, what's applicable to you now?
So for what's applicable for us post Series B, we're forming an official ESG strategy at PVcase. Previously, we've done like a lot of different things, not just on the E. We're obviously over-indexed on the E side of ESG, but we also been active from the social perspective. Everyone at PVcase gets 3 days to volunteer. We support certain organizations as well. So that's been an ongoing, let's say, activity within PVcase. But now we're forming an official strategy, which will be more long-term, more pronounced, and will help align different people around the globe within organization to strive towards the same goals.
Cool. Thank you so much for sharing, the sort of real life example, what you're doing at the moment. So I really appreciate that, it's not just theory, but your experience. Anastasia, can I ask you to add on about
Absolutely. So I absolutely agree with Johanna that ESG should come from leadership. And I think any leader's key role here is to understand all of the various ways in which the company can contribute, but also understand that it's not always an investment, right? So kind of be smart about sustainability, because for example, what I'm seeing at Printify is that our employees actually value and inquire about, okay, what are we doing to be sustainable, right? So kind of for me, it means that if we have that on our agenda, probably that will mean that our employees are more happy at work, the retention is probably going to go up, and eventually it may reduce the cost, right? So there are various ways to think about it, to spin it, and to educate both yourself as a leader and also your team about what this means. Another thing that I think that we need to be aware of is that in the past there has been a lot of greenwashing practices, right? So let's just design a strategy. Let's donate something to somebody just to tick the marks on our internal reports. I'm happy to see that is shifting. And that we actually can think about ways in which we can impact the world around us. For example, from kind of our business perspective, we operate mainly in the US, and this is an interesting topic. Actually, I'd love to hear Johanna's thoughts about this, because the way I feel is that in Europe, the consumer is more educated and willing to pay more for the sustainable choice. In US, not so much yet, right?
Hopefully.
Yet. So for us, providing services to our merchants, it probably wouldn't be a smart choice to limit them only to sustainable options, right? However, at the same time, there are things that do not impact our business negatively directly, but that are driving the world towards more sustainability. And one of the things that we just did is we designed a code of conduct in terms of sustainability for our printing partners. And for any company to be our partner, they need to sign it, they need to comply with some requirements. And this is a way in which we can contribute. So it's not always that straightforward. So you need to look at the bigger picture, map all of the stakeholders of your business, and choose your bets wisely at a specific period of time.
I really liked your thought about, the purpose and that the employees are asking, what are you doing with sustainability? Because the sense of purpose in the company is actually the biggest motivator when you work towards something greater than you or the company you work for. So it sounds like you're really doing that. Thank you so much. It's, we're already sitting on the panel and you're already finding touch points. So I really do believe about in working together and everyone, doing, thinking outside their inner yard. So sort of my next group of questions, I guess it's about working together and supporting each other. So you already touched upon that, right? What do young businesses need and what support you need at the beginning? So it sounds like a lot of education of the customers and the merchants and also the economic incentives for everyone, just to start that. Is there anything else that springs to mind? Because then I'll go to Paulius.
I'll let the colleague.
Okay. So Paulius just mentioned that you closed Series B recently, so congratulations on that. How have you noticed how investors' expectations have changed since you've been dealing with investors very recently? I don't know, maybe the cost of capital and risk tolerance has risen. What do they look for? Because obviously investors is a big thing in supporting and helping the business grow.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we, as part of the process, we have observed maybe a couple of key trends in the market, and this is not just about 2023, but I think we need to look back into what happened when COVID started. It's like all the valuations just went crazy, especially for B2B software as a service companies like PVcase, for example. And then things kind of got back to normal. I would say maybe a bit lower than normal in 2023. So right now the funding environment is tough, and it's definitely much more tough than it was 2 years ago when it's like we had a new unicorn basically minted every week in 2021. Now it's not the case anymore. In terms of what the investors are looking for is a more balanced approach to growth versus profitability.
Sustainable growth, that's called.
Sustainable growth, yeah, exactly. In 2021, growth was 6 times more important than profitability when determining the value of a public B2B SaaS company. Now it's 2-to-1, that the same ratio. Earlier this year, profitability was even a bit more important than growth. So now we're seeing like this pullback from growth at all costs to more sustainable business model, having ability to fund themselves. So companies fund themselves through tougher times and do not rely on external funding all the time. I'd say that's one of the trends that we observe. Another one, which is particular to climate tech, is that quite a few private equity companies, generalist VCs have raised massive new funds specifically for climate tech.
Yeah.
KKR raised $8 billion fund. General Atlantic raised $3.5 billion fund, and they need to deploy that cash quite quickly, and they cannot just write small checks. They need to invest sizable amounts of money in each company. We're talking 50, 100, 200 million. And there's lack of these kind of companies that fit the financial profile, the growth team, market, all of those things. They need to come together to attract that level of investment. And there's still that still exists, and we still see new players coming into the market looking for companies like this. So definitely that's something that didn't exist 3-4 years ago. So that's a completely new trend that we're observing. And I think someone correctly pointed out that climate tech is super broad. Includes agriculture, energy, transportation, so many different things. And if you look at like the level of funding that's flowing into the market, Q3 was the best quarter. Like Q3 this year was the best quarter in roughly 2 years now. And we combined companies attracted maybe 17 billion of investment. So if you look across the market, it's AI and climate tech that still stand out. Everyone else is kind of struggling, I would say.
So looking from outside, it sounds like such a wonderful problem. There is lots of money and there's nowhere to put it. But at the same time, it is a problem because there's nowhere to put it, right, within the sustainability. So again, if you're not looking for a job, but you want to create a climate tech and bootstrap it to get that investment, it's the time. Right, our time is ticking away, but I want to give you an opportunity for you to, Johanna, to tell, we're saying we're going to come back to these examples. How does MasterCard support sustainability? Yeah. So now's the time.
Now's my chance,
yes.
my elevator pitch. Yeah, no, I really want to be as concrete as possible to bring something for you guys with you. So one concrete way where we can kind of influence our end consumers to make more sustainable choices when they're consuming is by actually adding that to the payment experience. So actually, speaking of partnerships, we are actually partnering a lot with local fintechs and startups in the Nordic and Baltic countries. One of them is a Swedish fintech called Economy. And Economy has developed, together with MasterCard, an index which matches consumer transaction codes towards the equivalent in terms of carbon dioxide emissions. So actually, that gives us quite hard fact data in terms of how much carbon footprint is each transaction that you are making. So MasterCard has now developed a product called Carbon Calculator, which we are working with banks to roll out on a more global scale to equip and educate and inform cardholders on the consumption choices they are making. So imagine you have your payment card with MasterCard, you have a banking app, and you can actually get information about how sustainable were you in your consumption choices today. And based on those insights, you can make even better and more informed decisions when you are consuming tomorrow and going ahead.
And I do have a MasterCard card. How can I see that?
Well, hopefully you'll see it soon. We are now, this is what makes my job so fun and so engaging, is that this is what our team here locally are trying to build with partners. And we know that together with partners like the Economy, we can kind of create this innovation. But now we need our partners. We need the banks and the merchants to jump ahead on this with us. Because again, it comes back to the network effect. We cannot do anything alone. We need to do it jointly with our partners. And I think that translates very nicely into the climate change that we have ahead. Not one single company or single individual will be able to combat climate crisis. It has to be a joint effort. And of course, it shouldn't not only be impacted towards the consumer. It has to be a market-wide collaboration between public sector and government, the private companies, and ultimately informing and supporting consumers to make better choices. Whether it is purchasing clothes that are sustainably sourced, purchasing their source of electricity, whatever it might be, we all have a role to play.
And that sounds like a beautiful wrapping up sentence, because we do have to wrap up. So just as we wrap up, one piece of advice for the young companies or the ones that look to grow fast would you give? How do you grow fast and stay sustainable? Or any last thought that you want the audience to take away? It's time to say it now.
Yeah, I'd say that even one little thing counts. Yeah, so if you cannot do a big thing today, maybe you will be able to tomorrow do a small thing today, and that's a start already.
I like that. Thank you.
I think you cannot go wrong just by doing things that feel like, if you know that the things that you're doing are good for your people and your customers and for the planet as well. Like it's just common sense sometimes that we need to leverage, and like that's gonna set us up for quite a success already, I think.
It's the triple P's net: people, planet, profit, and they could live together. Yeah.
And I would actually take the opportunity to be even more concrete, is that please contact us. We are keen to partner. One of the programs that we are driving in the Baltic markets is the Lighthouse Innovation Program by MasterCard, together with banks, investors, experts, industry experts, and MasterCard experts, where we have now for 5 years been gathering the community of not only fintechs, but also impact tech in our programs. I think we've had 60 companies across different industries so far in the Baltic states. Last year, one of the finalists this year, Quota, was part of the MasterCard Lighthouse Innovation Program last year. So we are keen to partner, so let us know, and we can hopefully drive change together.
Her name is behind her. You can quickly put it on LinkedIn. All right, thank you. You've been really great. Thank you. The time has flown. A round of applause for our panel, and thank you very much. You've been a good audience. Thank you.